Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. Today we're taking a look at Advanced Spellcraft for Frostgrave 2nd edition, published by Osprey and written by my friend Joseph A. McCullough. This is his, I believe, 14th expansion in the Frozen City and represents kind of like the biggest supplement that he's written to date. This is a wonderful little like homage basically to the time it's gone by, and I was lucky enough to get a advanced press preview so that I could share it with you guys and you can check it out. So as usual, great introduction by Joe. He talks about basically the times we've been through here in the last 10 years and all 14 supplements that he's written for Frostgrave. Bunch of novels, tons of model kits, tons of plastics, a spin-off in Ghost Archipelago, and an additional sort of like like navel gazing about the time that he spent, crafting this world and playing in it. And a big thanks to all of his fans, which I think is really sweet. So basically the thing that happened when he wrote this book is he started writing Advanced Spellcraft, and he didn't want this just to be another like kind of, cast bone dart thing. So what he did was he created a huge list of codified spells. And this is everything basically you need to play Frostgrave Magic Wives. It's every single spell that he's got in the game. And then an evil library to explore. The BIBLIOSEPULCHRE campaign, which is just fantastic. It's Hogwarts. It's a different section for every lore. So you have a scenario for each one. There's a necromancy section, a chronomancy section, sigilism, witchcraft, illusions, summoning, enchanting, thaumaturgy, soothsaying, and elementalism. So imagine like you're going through different classrooms in Hogwarts and you have to fight a scenario in each one. Tons of new treasure, as usual, and a whole bunch of different creatures for the BIBLIOSEPULCHRE. And then, which always drives me nuts because Joe comes up with insane monsters. I have to somehow create that on the table. And this is the sort of like, the idea being that this is a celebration of Frostgrave in a supplement. So the idea here is that like you've got a massive sort of like, I guess, codifying of all the spells in one place. And then you get to explore sort of iconic different sort of adventures inside the BIBLIOSEPULCHRE, which each one is sort of identified to one of the different schools. Because this is just a location in the ruined city and we want to check it out. So now I got some additional optional spellcasting rules. So there is some core mechanical stuff added as well. The first one's Blaze of Glory. I love this. In the main rule, spellcasters are only allowed to empower spells by spending health that they have. Put another way, you can only go down to health 0 to empower a spell. Under this rule, spellcasters are allowed to take their health below 0 to empower a spell. But for every point that they add to their casting roll that would take them below 0 health, they suffer a -1 of their survival roll after the game. So basically, if you know you're going to lose, you're going to die, but you need to like accomplish something so your soldiers can get away with a treasure, like finish somebody off, you can push past. But the chances that you might die in the roll later on, you get really, really high. So you got to be kind of like careful. And then adding in casting roll criticals. This rule makes spellcasting even more dangerous and unpredictable. Fantastic, Joe. Whenever you roll an natural 20 a casting roll, they have rolled a critical success, and of course, one is a critical fail. Either place, the player should look up the special spell being cast in the codified spell list to find the result of the criticals. So he's added criticals into this rewriting of all of the spells. Criticals are never used when a spellcaster is using a scroll, except when regard to the rules presented to the right scroll. And when you're casting a spell, it creates a scroll. If a spellcaster is attempting to cast a spell it knows and rolls a 1, it may not use a scroll, even if it has one available. A spellcaster rolls a critical failure on a casting roll, receives plus 10 experience points instead of the usual plus 5 for trying to cast a spell, because you had to like live through the process. Many of the criticals involve random distances. In all cases, this can't move a figure or a select point off the table. Draining magic items. This is an interesting one. So like magic items are kind of very often the way that you boost your soldiers by making them better. Having them drain out. This optional rule, in effect, spellcasters are allowed to empower out of game spells by draining the mystical forces stored within magic items and weapons. So using this rule, the spellcaster can sacrifice a magical item, weapon, or armor that's stored in their vault to increase their casting roll by +1 for every full 100 gold that it's worth. So Wand of Light, for instance, with a sell price of 200 would give you +2 to empower your out-of-game spells. This is cool. Basically, you're just like, you're almost like a Defiler wizard from Dark Sun and D&D. Like, you're taking the magic out of stuff to zhuzh up your spellcasting. And then flourishes. Over the century, wizards are constantly tinkering with the best known spells, making small modifications. This is like making a spell your own. If the spell succeeds, the spell is cast additional rules listed under the flourish. So everything will have a flourish that you can attempt to do too. If a spellcaster knows multiple flourishes for a given spell, they can attempt to use more than one when casting a spell. However, when attempting to cast a spell with multiple flourishes, the spellcaster suffers the modifiers to all the magical flourishes added together. So basically, it's harder the more that you want to try and do. Holding a spell. If a spellcaster activates and only uses their move action and is entitled to one or more additional actions, it can instead forego any remaining actions to hold a spell. Place a marker down next to the spellcaster to remember this, and at any point during the rest of the turn, directly after remember the warband has completed an activation, the warcaster can attempt to cast a spell following the normal rules. So this is a neat idea. It's kind of like overwatching spells. So if guys are out of position, this is like a tactical idea where like people can move into range, and then you could leap them, or you could empower them, or whatever you want to do. There's a danger, though. If you're holding a spell and you suffer damage for any reason, your concentration is broken, you can't cast the spell this turn. Also, if the warband runs out of figures to activate, such as the last soldier being killed during another player's turn, the opportunity has also been lost, because you have to have a guy to activate to basically pull it. No market for created items. If you make an item, you can't sell it. So no, Owen used to do this. He used to mill making magic items and potions and then sell them. To get gold to buy cloaks of invisibility for his thieves. Then out of game empowering. How the base view has changed so much since out of game spells were divided into before and after games in second edition. Under this optional rule, spellcasters are allowed to empower out of game spells. In this case, the damage taken before empowering the spells is basically before the game being played. So the idea here is when you start a game, you might want to do things like summon an imp or something like that. You're allowed to take damage before the game starts. You just can't do it afterwards. So you just go into the game basically with the damage you took trying to empower the spell. So if you really want to get your construct built and stuff like that, you can before the game starts, and then just chug a healing potion. And then out of game spellcasting limits. As wizards go up in level, the number of out of game spells they know can grow unwieldy, because you could just be like doing a ton of them. Under this rule, the warband is limited to a maximum of 4 out-of-game spells. So no matter how much you do, basically, you can only cast 4 of these because you don't have time in between games. And then forgetting spells. Most of the rules represented in this chapter can be incorporated into a Frostgrave campaign without really greatly changing the inherent feel of the game. But under this rule, whenever a spellcaster fails to cast a spell, they may not use that spell for the remainder of the game or scenario. They've temporarily forgotten the words. That's great. Look at this cool book monster. Oh god, Joe's gonna make me try and make one of these. I know it. I think there is one actually. I think there might be a Reaper one of that guy. All right, so codified spell list. So this is just, we'll show absorb knowledge so you guys can get an idea of what Joe's changed here. The top little paragraph there, Sigilist cast on 12 out of game A, so it's after. Wizard only, the spell allows a wizard to absorb the knowledge from a written work without having to read it. You immediately gain 40 experience for casting the spell to represent the speed with which they can gain knowledge. You can't do this if you go into a game below health. So now, that's just the regular spell as it was in the rulebook. For flourishes, if you're -2 to your roll, the wizard can gain +2 to the next out-of-game spell they're casting after this one. So you channel knowledge. So basically, you're absorbing knowledge, you're using it to cast the next spell. But you take a penalty to this one. So -2 to this roll, +2 to the next one. Or every last word, the next time the wizard learns a flourish from a grimoire, that grimoire is not expended, either be sold or used to learn another flourish for that spell. And the idea here is that you're able to use your grimoires. I don't think I mentioned that. Use your grimoires to basically, if you find one for a spell you already know, then you can gain a flourish instead by getting the extra knowledge. It means you're not just selling grimoires for spells you already know. And then critical success, the wizard gets 50 instead of 40 and gets +2 to the next out-of-game spell that it does. Basically the flourish for free. But on a crit failure, you absorb a huge amount of meaningless gibberish and you're -1 will in the next game. And so that's how all these are going to be expressed. Like Animal Companion's going to have Enchanted Friend, you have magic attacks. The Animal Companion permanently gains True Sight. Crit success, the spellcaster can gain a white Guerrilla as its Animal Companion, or one creature that basically is normally allowed with +1 health. And then critical failure, in the next game, one opponent randomly can select a bear, wolf, or snow leopard, or ice toad to add to their warband instead, because it goes and joins them. And all of these are going to have these additional bonuses. I'm not going to ruin them all, because obviously there's a lot going on here. But this is every spell. So yeah, get excited, because it's a lot of stuff. And then we have our campaign section. Come on, campaign section. What's scenario 4? We went too far. I should have just clicked the thing. It's chugging on this giant PDF. Okay. So the BIBLIOSEPULCHRE. This chapter represents 10 scenarios that all take place in the ruins of the giant library crypt known as the BIBLIOSEPULCHRE. While all the scenarios are tied together geographically and by some special rules presented in the chapter, they otherwise stand alone, and players should feel free to play them as standalone games and ongoing campaign. You can either play them in order, or you can roll randomly to try and explore each one with a d20. So you can see there's 10 sections. Near the heart of the ancient Felstead stood a vast, sprawling library. It had been established in the earliest days of the city, and over the passing centuries had grown in all directions, with new wings, annexes, catacombs, towers, basements, sub-basements, and halls being added by successive administrations. The proper name of the institution has long been forgotten, but it's called the BIBLIOSEPULCHRE because of the strange traditions kept by the librarians. Young men and women who joined the library first signed on as acolytes and spent a 5-year apprenticeship studying the great books and learning the secrets of their care. At the end of the time, the acolytes selected one book, usually a rare grimoire, and spent the next several years painstakingly transcribing it, binding it, and decorating it. Once the new volume of their book was bound behind, they could leave the library and their book behind, or take the final oath of the library. And so it bound them to the protection of the library, and their book did not just for the rest of their life, but also in death. And this is why they become weird book monsters, basically. We get some idea for doing in miniatures. There's the tombs. They should feature a tomb or mausoleum on the table. This should be a 6x6 structure or thereabouts with a doorway in the middle on each side. This can be two-dimensional on the table, but if you're going to be playing multiple scenarios of this book, it's probably worth going ahead and making one. It must be possible to access the inside of the tomb. So it's a 6-inch building with a door on every side. And then there'll be things in the like basically a book in each one. So a book white could be in the center of the tomb. Place a special treasure token in the center of the tomb and a book white. Place a candelabra in each corner of the tomb and place a book white in the center of the tomb with a special treasure token. So this is where you're finding grimoires, the special grimoires. And each section will then have its own scenario, basically, and there's going to be a tomb in each one that you're trying to get the book out of. Setup requirements: a tomb, lots of ghouls, 4 giant rats from the necromancy one. The chronomancy requires a tomb, 2 chronohounds. The sigilism section: 12 tokens, 2 large incunabulons, whatever those are. The witchcraft section: a tomb, a 12-inch wall, 4 doorways, a cauldron, close of crowds, and silverfish swarms. Ugh. The illusion section: a tomb, 4 illusionary fires, 4 markers, and 8 treasure tokens, because some of them aren't real, obviously. And then the enchanting section, a tomb. So you need a tomb for most of these. A bunch of 12-inch walls. 2 large constructs, 4 medium constructs. Thaumaturgy, a pit, and 4 lighthawks. Soothsaying's a ruined tomb, because it's all broken down. And elementalism is going to be a tomb, 12 columns, and some book eaters. Let's take a look at the monsters for this one. Obviously, there's new treasure for it, too. But monster and terrain requirements are what everybody wants to get their brains around early on, because that's what you need to put together for the campaign. Oh my god, so many magic items, Joe. So many magic items. This is a huge book. The Bestiary. Blade dogs. Essentially, the wizard's taken a bunch of old blades, such as swords, spears, axes, and knives, and beat them into the rough shape of a dog. A blood crow, makes sense. Just a crow the color of blood. A book white, those are the book constructs. A book eater, a ghoul that eats books. Kylopendra, it's basically like shattered. It's a giant. Sorry, the lower half of a giant centipede with sharp horns and venom legs. Weird. A collegium porter. It looks like it's made from stained glass. Very cool. Chronohounds, failing wretches, minor demon. Illusionary fires. Incunabulons, formed of half-written books bound together with rough mimicry of the human form. Leech wolves. A light hawk. So a hawk made of light. Silverfish worms, grouse. Violent fungi. I've done the special rules for all these guys. I'm sure you'll find at least some of these on Northstar. And that's it. There's our preview for the newest supplement for Frostgrave. And congratulations to Joe on 10 years in this hobby, in this game. Now, there is also a 10-year celebration that's going to be coming out, a bound hardcover copy of his new book, which I think is going to be probably the coolest edition of this game, because it's gonna be like in leather with like a slipcase, and I'm pretty excited to check that out too. But that's, I think, another announcement, and we'll review that when it comes along. So anyway, there we go. We've got our look at the latest supplement for Frostgrave. Big thanks for Osprey sending us along, Joe for writing it, and for you guys for watching. This is Ash.